Hi, this is our Facebook case study. I'm Adam Levitt. I'm here with Jared Brunner and Nick Clausen, and this is our case study for our Facebook event. Our introduction to this case study is referencing a security breach in Facebook. It's estimated to have affected roughly 50 million people. Our case study subject, Ryan, is worried about being affected by this system information breach. He's had to deal with problems with this like this in the past. He's had to deal with identity theft and problems with his credit card. So he's really concerned about his information being safe online and not falling into the wrong hands. So he goes and he comes to us and he asks his marketing team at work, which is us, what we think that he should do about his Facebook and whether or not he should just delete it altogether.
So a little summary of this case. So Ryan works for a trustee bank and he recently learned about this big Facebook breach. He's now considering whether or not to use Facebook anymore because he's dealt with security breaches and identity fraud in the past and doesn't want another type of incident like that. So Ryan decides to get input from his marketing team, which is us, before making a decision on whether to delete his account or not, and hopefully get a better idea of what to do about his Facebook problem.
In Facebook's recent security breach, Facebook breached about 50 million people. This is it's pretty minuscule to the amount of people that Facebook actually has. But Ryan is really worried that his personal information is affected and it has been stolen by other people. For this reason, we are going to explain some ways to fix this, and he might have to delete his Facebook. And so this is why he's asking us what to do.
Our first recommendation of action, the very first thing that we think that Ryan should consider is following the link above in our presentation, as you can see right here. This link is a Facebook direct link. It will take you directly to a page basically that lets you know whether or not your account has been compromised in any way during their recent data breach. It'll tell you specifically not only whether or not your account has been affected, but also what information is possible to have been accessed by a third party, which is very important to know when trying to figure out exactly how you want to deal with the issue. In addition, we wanted to really emphasize exactly the scope of the effects of this Facebook information breach. We wanted to emphasize the fact that Facebook has, as of 2018, a reported 2.23 billion users. This breach reportedly affected 50 million of those 2.23 billion users, which in all considerations is a relatively minuscule amount. Obviously not just to be written off, but it's less than 3% of all the active users on Facebook. So in other words, there's a better than 97% chance that Ryan's account was actually not affected in any way and his information wasn't subject to capture by any kind of third party. So that's our first recommendation, is to make sure that he really understands the scope to which his account was or wasn't affected by this data breach. And so that's the first thing he's got to do before he can even really figure out what he needs to do from there.
So our second recommendation, as you can see here, to combat cyber fraud, we should better protect his Facebook account by making changes that are recommended by Facebook, actually. So some of these recommendations include adjusting app settings. So Facebook's app settings page is one of social media's most important privacy settings. There's a lot of options you can take here. Your safest option would be to disable all Facebook apps completely. That way there'd be no chance of being breached through these Facebook apps. Another option would be to disable some of the apps that you don't currently use, old apps, ones you didn't know you use. So adjusting app settings can be very important. Our next recommendation would be to control the info people see about you. So to control this data, you can control data that your friends and third parties see. And in the settings, you will uncheck boxes with your personal info, and there you can decide what type of things your friends can see, what type of things people who aren't your friends can see. And another thing is to make changes to your privacy shortcuts. So you can make your account more secure with things like two-factor authentication. You can control what advertisements, what kind of information they can get from your account, what kind of personal information they can see. And you can also, your personal info, who sees it, what type of things people can do with your personal information, and more. So with all these privacy settings, Ryan will be able to hide his personal information better and be as greatly protected as he can from fraud by changing his settings here on Facebook.
Now our third recommendation would be to delete his Facebook account. This is definitely the most extreme case that anyone can ever do. Nobody really wants to do that. Everybody wants to stay in touch with their grandma, their brother, their sister, their mother, and this is definitely not the way to go. So after he has gone through our first two recommendations, he will be able to delete his Facebook account if he's not yet comfortable with his security settings, privacy settings would have it. So this is exactly how you would go about deleting his Facebook account. So you would click account, you would click general, then once you find manage account, which is right around here, you click edit. Then once you do that, you are then able to delete your Facebook account. Ryan will be able to do this at any point in time, and if he does choose to do so, he can delete his account. Once deleted, all your privacy settings, all your private contact information will be deleted and will not be able to be used against you in further security breaches.
Our recommendation basically takes the form of a combination of a couple of these different ideas that we've had about how to solve this information breach problem that Ryan is worried about. Primarily, like we said, the very first thing we think you should do is to find out whether or not your account was affected at all, and to find out exactly what the risk that your account could be affected in the future is. So following that link that we talked about in our first part of a recommendation is the very first thing that you should do, and that gives you an idea of what information is sensitive, what information is in danger of being gathered by a third party. Second of all, we talked about incorporating some of the adjusting app setting changes, and that's going to just make you less susceptible to any kind of data phishing scam or anything like that a Facebook hacker or that a third party would be trying to access. You could change that in the app settings, either on your PC, on your computer, or on your actual Facebook app on your phone or mobile device. So then, in addition, you could also, as we talked about, work on some of the privacy shortcuts and some of the privacy settings in those third-party apps that are in addition part of Facebook. The other thing that we talked about that we also agree that would be the best case of action, best course of action for Ryan would be to limit the amount of personal information that he makes available on Facebook, whether that be things that he posts, comments that he makes, different things that he makes visible in his profile itself. That's going to protect him not only on the internet from identity fraud and things of that nature, or third parties accessing his information, but also in real life. It could protect someone from knowing whether or not he's home, or protect him potentially from being robbed or something of that nature in his actual home, because the scammers don't necessarily know all of the information that he's putting out there. So that's good. We kind of want to push him away from immediately going to the delete feature. We don't think that that's necessarily the best course of action. It certainly has the most severe drawbacks out of all of the options that we've presented. It doesn't really allow for him to be connected in this world where being connected is so important. It doesn't give him the opportunity to stay in touch with relatives and friends, which is very important in this day and age. So we personally would kind of push him away from deleting his Facebook. That's probably not the area that we would put him in.
All right, to conclude, so Ryan came to us as his marketing team with all of his problems with his security breach and his privacy settings. So we, as I said, and all of us said, that you want to go through the first 3 steps that we recommended. And once you do go through these steps, you ultimately have the choice whether or not to delete your account. First, he has to know if he's comfortable enough with releasing some privacy or private settings, like your address or your phone number, so people can contact you. But as we recommended, you should not have this. And to conclude, go through the first 3 steps, and then if anything else, you just delete your account. Thank you.